I never believed in ghosts. Or demons. Or any of that supernatural bullshit. Growing up in Ohio, my world was sports, girls, and video games. The only thing that ever kept me up at night was a last-minute essay or a late-night horror movie I regretted watching. But let me tell you, when something happens in real life, when it's not a movie or a campfire story, when you're alone and there's no background music to tell you when to be scared, that's when it gets real. It started when I moved into a rental house on Sycamore Street, just outside of Cleveland. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a creaky-ass wooden porch that looked like it belonged in a 1950s horror flick. I took it because it was cheap, close to work, and had that old-school charm I liked. Hardwood floors, big windows, and a bedroom with a lock on the door. A good place for a guy like me, 26 years old, single, and just trying to figure out life. The landlord, a guy named Mr. Lawson, was in his late 60s and had that worn-out, I've seen some shit look. He gave me the keys, shook my hand, and said something weird as he left. "Oh, and if you hear anything at night, just ignore it." I laughed it off. Thought maybe he was talking about creaky pipes or the house settling. But there was something in his eyes, something that made the hairs on my arms rise just a little. The first couple of nights were fine. The place smelled like old wood and dust, but nothing out of the ordinary. I spent my evenings watching Netflix, playing Call of Duty, and scrolling Reddit until I passed out. Then, about a week in, I started noticing small things. At first, it was just a feeling. You ever get that sense that someone's watching you? That weird prickling at the back of your neck? I'd be sitting on my couch, perfectly comfortable, then, bam, this sudden urge to turn around, convinced someone was standing behind me. But every time I looked, the room was empty. Just the dim light of my TV flickering across the floor. Then came the noises. They were subtle at first, soft creaks in the hallway, a faint rustling sound, like someone shifting their weight on the old wooden floors. I told myself it was the house settling. Old houses make noise. No big deal. But then it got worse. One night, around 2 a.m., I heard it. The doorknob. I was half asleep, lying in bed, when I heard a soft click, the unmistakable sound of someone testing the handle. My bedroom door was closed, and I always locked it out of habit. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe my mind playing tricks on me. I shut my eyes, rolled over, and forced myself to sleep. But then it happened again. Click. A slow, deliberate twist. Not fast, not aggressive, just enough for the metal inside to shift. My heart hammered in my chest. I turned onto my back, staring at the dark outline of my door, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But nothing did. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. I didn't move for what felt like an hour, and eventually, exhaustion won. I told myself I imagined it, that maybe I hadn't locked the door properly and the handle just shifted on its own. The mind plays tricks when it's late. But deep down, I knew better. And the next night, it happened again. Only this time, the doorknob didn't just turn. It stopped, mid-turn. And it stayed there. Like someone was on the other side, gripping it, waiting. I didn't sleep that night. And that was just the beginning that I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just lay there, staring at the doorknob, my mind racing through every possible explanation. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe the doorframe was uneven. Maybe someone was on the other side. My phone was on my nightstand. I wanted to grab it, turn on the flashlight, do something, but I was frozen. Every muscle in my body tensed, locked in place like my instincts were screaming at me, do not move. The doorknob stayed mid-turn. Not twisting back. Not finishing the turn. Just, held there, like someone was gripping it, waiting for me to react. A bead of sweat slid down my forehead. My pulse pounded in my ears, loud enough that I swore whatever was on the other side could hear it. I wanted to call out, to say something, to demand who was there, but my throat was dry as sandpaper. I don't know how long I stared, but eventually, so slowly, the knob turned back. Click. It was so quiet that I almost didn't hear it. But I saw it. I saw it move, shifting back into place like whatever, was on the other side had changed its mind. For a moment, there was silence. Then, something even worse. A single, deliberate footstep. A slow press of weight against the wooden floorboards, right outside my door. At that moment, the fear became something else. Something primal. I felt like an animal backed into a corner, lungs burning, body trapped between fight and flight. I couldn't take it anymore. I threw myself up, snatched my phone, and turned on the flashlight in one motion. My heart was slamming against my ribs as I aimed the light at the door. The knob was still. The room was dead silent. But my gut told me, someone had been there. I had to check. I moved towards the door, every step slow and deliberate. My bare feet made no sound against the wooden floor. My own breath was barely moving in and out of my lungs. I placed my hand on the knob. Cold. Freezing cold. Like it had been sitting outside in the dead of winter. I swallowed hard and turned it. The door creaked open. The hallway was pitch black. My phone's flashlight cast long, eerie shadows against the walls, making the old wood grain look twisted, distorted. The air out here was different. Still. My eyes darted down the hallway. No movement. No sound. But something felt off. Like the space itself wasn't right. I stepped out, my heart pounding. My skin prickled like static electricity was in the air. And then, I heard breathing. Not mine. Not normal breathing. Slow, labored, almost, wet. I turned my phone's flashlight toward the end of the hallway, my stomach twisting into knots. Nothing. But I felt it. Something was there. Watching. And then, the floor creaked. Right. Behind. Me. I spun around so fast that my phone nearly flew out of my hand. My flashlight beam slashed across the dark, scanning every inch of the hallway. Nothing. No one was there. But the sound, it had been so damn close. I don't even remember running back into my room. My next memory is slamming the door shut, locking it, and pressing my back against it, my chest heaving. I didn't sleep that night. But I heard things. Soft scratching sounds against the door. A faint, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails lightly rapping against the wood. And worst of all, at exactly 3:12 a.m. the doorknob turned again. And this time, it didn't stop mid-turn. It turned all the way that I don't know if you've ever felt true, undiluted terror before. Not fear. Not anxiety. But that raw, primal terror that hijacks your body, locking your muscles, slowing your breath, making your skin feel wrong, like you don't belong in it anymore. That's what I felt when the doorknob turned all the way. There was no mistaking it this time. The door wasn't settling. The handle wasn't loose. Someone, something, was on the other side, and this time, it wasn't hesitating. Click. The latch disengaged. I nearly pissed myself. I lunged forward, slamming my weight against the door just as it started to push open. The impact rattled through my bones, but I didn't care. I forced it shut and twisted the lock so hard I almost snapped it off. Silence. My entire body was trembling, but I pressed my ear against the door, trying to listen. Nothing. Then. A whisper. Right at the fucking keyhole. Aaron. I recoiled so fast I tripped over myself, my spine slamming against the edge of my bed. My phone flew from my hand and skidded across the floor, the flashlight spinning wildly before landing face down, plunging me into darkness. My name. It had said my fucking name. I sucked in a shaky breath, my pulse hammering so hard it hurt. My mouth was bone dry. My limbs felt numb. The whisper hadn't been normal. It wasn't the voice of a person. It was too thin, too dry, like wind passing through cracked lips. I scrambled for my phone, my fingers shaking as I grabbed it and flipped it back over. The beam of light cut through the dark, illuminating my bedroom, my locked door. And the shadow underneath it. A silhouette. 2 feet. Standing perfectly still. I went ice cold. It was just standing there. Not moving. Not shifting. Just waiting. I had to get out of here. I had to call the cops. But as I lifted my phone to dial 911, the feet shifted. Not like they turned to walk away. No. They lowered. Like whatever it was had dropped down, pressing its face against the gap under the door. My stomach flipped. My breath caught in my throat. Then, the whisper came again. Open the door, Aaron. I choked on my own spit, scrambling backward onto my bed like a scared little kid. I gripped my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I know you can hear me. The voice was right there, directly against the crack at the bottom of the door. I could almost feel the breath against my skin. I wanted to scream, to beg it to leave me alone. But I couldn't. I just sat there, my body shaking so violently that my teeth were nearly chattering. And then, the whisper started laughing. Soft, dry chuckles. They slithered through the gap like smoke, curling into my ears, crawling under my skin. It wasn't natural. It wasn't human. I covered my ears, squeezing my eyes shut. Then, the knocking started. Slow. Rhythmic. Not on the door. On my fucking floor. Tap. 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 Like fingers drumming against the wood. Inside my room. I lost it. I bolted upright, grabbed the nearest thing I could, a lamp, and hurled it at the door with everything I had. The glass shattered, the bulb exploded in a bright flash, and the entire room went dark. For a single, suffocating second, there was only silence. Then, a scrape. A slow, deliberate scrape against the wood. And then, in a voice so soft, so sickly sweet, it made my skin crawl. Aaron. I can wait. I didn't sleep. I didn't move from my bed until the first rays of sunlight bled through my window. Only then, did I crawl toward my door, heart in my throat, and press my ear against it. Nothing. I unlocked it with shaking hands. I pulled it open. And the hallway was empty. But the wooden floor, right outside my door, had scratch marks. Morning didn't feel real. The sun was out, but it wasn't enough. Light didn't chase away the feeling that something had stood outside my door last night, whispering, laughing, scratching. I barely managed to pull myself out of bed. My entire body ached from how tense I'd been, like I had spent the whole night bracing for something to come through the door. But it never did. I stood in the doorway, staring at the floor. The scratches were deep. 5 parallel lines, uneven but deliberate. Not random scuffs. Not an accident. A mark. Like something had been testing the wood. I ran my fingers over the grooves. The deeper ones were rough, splintered, like something had dragged its nails through them with force. I swallowed hard, a wave of nausea rolling through my stomach. I needed to leave. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and my phone and bolted out the front door. I didn't even look back. I just drove. I ended up at a diner a few miles from my house. One of those greasy spoon places where the coffee tastes burnt no matter how much sugar you add. I didn't care. I needed to be around people. I needed noise. I sat in a corner booth, clutching my coffee like it was a lifeline, my knee bouncing under the table. My mind was a mess, thoughts racing, replaying every second of last night in my head. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe the stress of work, of living alone, of everything, I don't know, was getting to me. But then, the waitress walked by. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and tired shoulders. She set down my check and gave me a small smile. Then she hesitated. Her eyes flicked to my hands. "You all right, hon?" I frowned. "Yeah." "Why?" She nodded at my wrist. I looked down. There were bruises. Dark, fingerprint-shaped bruises wrapped around my wrist, like someone had grabbed me. The room spun. I pulled my sleeve down, swallowing the rising bile in my throat. I needed to go home. I needed to see if anything else had changed. The house looked the same when I pulled into the driveway. Quiet. Still. Too still. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Then, I forced myself out of the car and up the porch steps. My hands shook as I unlocked the front door. The knob felt wrong, almost warm, like someone had been holding it from the other side just seconds before I touched it. I swallowed hard and pushed inside. Silence. Everything was where I left it. My couch. My TV. The blanket I'd tossed on the floor in my rush to leave. But then, I saw the hallway. And my stomach dropped. The scratches were gone. The floor, which had been deeply gouged this morning, looked untouched. Smooth. Polished. Like nothing had ever happened. I felt my pulse hammer against my throat. No. No, this wasn't right. I didn't imagine those scratches. I didn't imagine the bruises on my wrist. Something was playing with me. I stepped closer, heart pounding. That's when I noticed something else. My bedroom door. It was open. Just an inch. I never left my bedroom door open. Ever. My body went ice cold. I reached out, fingertips barely brushing the edge of the wood. Then, from inside my bedroom, something breathed. A slow, wet inhale. Close. Too close. I stumbled back so fast I nearly fell. My lungs locked up, my vision blurred at the edges. And then, the door slammed shut. Hard. Violent. So forceful that the walls shook. I ran. I didn't grab my keys. I didn't grab my phone. I just ran out the front door, barefoot, down the street, heart slamming against my ribs, breath coming in panicked gasps. I didn't stop until I was standing outside a gas station a mile away, bent over, hands on my knees, trying not to throw up. I had to leave. I had to get out of that house. But somehow, deep down, I knew the truth. It didn't matter where I went. Because whatever was in that house, it wasn't trapped there. It knew my name. It knew where I slept. And I had a horrible, horrible feeling. That it was already inside me that I didn't go back. I couldn't. I spent the night in my car, parked in a well-lit gas station lot with my seat pushed all the way back. I kept the doors locked, one hand gripping my phone, the other curled into a fist, like that would do anything if, when, it came for me. But nothing happened. No whispers. No knocks. No doorknobs turning in the dead of night. I barely slept, but when the sun finally cracked over the horizon, I almost convinced myself that maybe it was just the house. Maybe if I stayed away, it wouldn't follow. God, I was so wrong. By noon, I had a plan, get my things and get the hell out of there. I wasn't even staying in town. I'd get a hotel somewhere a few cities over, find an apartment, never set foot in that place again. I didn't even care about breaking my lease. Let the landlord deal with whatever the fuck was in there. So I went back. In broad daylight. The house looked normal. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Birds chirped. The world felt real. Not like last night. I took a deep breath, gripping my keys tight. My pulse pounded in my throat as I stepped onto the porch. I hesitated at the front door. The last time I touched this doorknob, it had been worn. I pressed my fingers against the metal. It was ice cold. I don't want to go inside. But I had to. I turned the key. The door swung open with a low creak. I stepped inside. Silence. The air was still, heavy, but nothing felt wrong. No whispers. No breathing. No footprints in the dust. Just my house. I forced myself down the hall, heart thudding with every step. My bedroom door was still shut. I didn't touch it. I just grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, stuffed in as many clothes as I could, then bolted for the front door. I had 1 foot out the door, 1 foot away from getting the hell out. Then my phone vibrated. A single notification. It was from my own number. I frowned, stopping dead in my tracks. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the screen. A text message. A picture. Of me. Standing in my bedroom. Right now. The photo had been taken from inside my closet. The duffel bag dropped from my hands. Every inch of my body went cold. That's not possible. I was just in there. Then. From my bedroom. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 times. From inside the closet. My vision blurred. My chest seized. I ran. I didn't grab my things. I didn't lock the door behind me. I didn't do anything except sprint to my car and throw myself inside, slamming the doors shut, fumbling with the ignition. The engine wouldn't start. My breath came in ragged gasps. I turned the key again. The car refused to turn over. Then. In my rearview mirror. In the back seat. A shadow. Someone sitting there. Still. Silent. Watching me. I didn't turn around. I didn't move. I just sat there, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles cracked, tears burning in my eyes, my heartbeat so loud it was all I could hear. Then, that same dry, sickly sweet whisper. I told you, Aaron. My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I'd be sick. The shadow in the mirror leaned forward, just enough for me to see. A wide, wide grin. Too wide. Too sharp. It pressed its lips close to my ear, and in that same paper-thin whisper, it said. I can go anywhere. I blacked out that I don't remember driving. I don't remember leaving my house, or how I got from my car to this motel. All I know is that I woke up lying on a bed in a shitty, dimly lit room with my heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to break free. My shirt was drenched in sweat. My hands were ice cold. The first thing I did was check my phone. 3:47 a.m. I had lost almost 10 hours. My stomach turned. I swallowed back the bile rising in my throat and forced myself to sit up. The room was silent. Stale air. Peeling wallpaper. A flickering light above the bed. I was alone. I exhaled, running a trembling hand through my hair. Then I saw it. The mirror. A long, cracked thing above the dresser. It was fogged up. Like someone had breathed on it. I went completely still. The room was cold. I hadn't taken a shower. There was no reason for that mirror to be fogged. My breath hitched. I slid off the bed slowly, keeping my eyes locked on the glass. And then. The fog moved. It pulled back, revealing something underneath. Something written. A message. You brought me with you. A sound slipped from my throat, half gasp, half strangled sob. I stumbled backward, my knees buckling, barely catching myself on the nightstand. No. No, no, no. It wasn't supposed to follow me. I spun around, ready to bolt. Then I heard it. That laugh. That dry, razor-thin chuckle, curling through the air like smoke. Right behind me. I turned too fast, my vision swimming, breath catching in my chest. But there was nothing. Just the empty motel room. The mirror was clear now. Perfectly clean. Like the words had never been there at all. I sucked in a shaky breath, forcing myself to move, to do something. I grabbed my bag. My keys. My phone. I had to leave. I had to fucking leave. But then. I felt it. A slow, gentle breath against the back of my neck. A whisper. Nowhere to run, Aaron. I bolted. I didn't care that I left my stuff. I didn't care that I was barefoot. I ran out the door, into the empty parking lot, into the freezing air. And slammed into someone. Hard. I hit the ground, my teeth rattling, a sharp pain slicing through my hip. I gasped, looking up, heart about to explode. It was the motel clerk. A skinny, tired-looking guy in a wrinkled uniform. He blinked down at me, confused. Jesus, man, you good? I tried to speak, but my throat was so tight that I couldn't even breathe. He offered me a hand. I hesitated before grabbing it, my whole body shaking. You look like you've seen a ghost, he joked, pulling me to my feet. I forced a laugh. A wrong laugh. He gave me a weird look. You okay? I nodded. Too fast. Too stiff. Yeah. Just, bad dream, I rasped. He snorted. Yeah, tell me about it. I wanted to ask him, had he heard anything? Had he seen anything? But I already knew the answer. This thing wasn't making itself known to anyone else. Just me. I rubbed my face, my palms slick with sweat. Listen, the clerk said, if you need anything, I'll be in the office. He turned, stepping toward the front desk. Then he froze. Staring. At my motel door. The door I had just run through. My stomach dropped. Slowly, painfully, I turned to follow his gaze. My breath caught in my throat. The door, my door, was wide open. The lights inside flickering. And standing just inside the room, in the darkness beyond the threshold. A silhouette. Not moving. Not breathing. Watching. A black void of a thing, its edges wrong, like it didn't quite fit into this world. Like it was pressing through. I staggered back, my hands shaking so hard I almost fell. The clerk swore under his breath. Then, he stepped forward. What the hell? No, I gasped, grabbing his arm. Holding him back. Don't go near it. He blinked at me. What? Dude, it's just a... The lights in my room died. Completely. We both went still. The hallway beyond the door was pitch black. And the thing inside? It stepped forward. For the first time since this nightmare started. I saw it move. And I knew. I had never been running away. I had been leading it out. I had let it in, the light stayed dead. The motel clerk stood frozen beside me, his breath coming in short, confused gasps. What the hell, he whispered. But I couldn't answer him. I couldn't even breathe. Because the thing in my room had taken another step. Closer. And now I could see it. Not just a shadow. Not just a shape. It was tall, too tall for the doorway. It had to bend down to fit through. Its limbs were long, stretched like something that had been pulled apart and put back together wrong. And its face. Oh, God. There was nothing there. Just a smooth, featureless expanse of skin, like something unfinished. Like something wearing a person's shape but not understanding what a person should look like. But then. The skin moved. It rippled, twisting like something writhing underneath. And then, slowly, so slowly. It smiled. A wide, impossible grin split its face open. Not a mouth. Just teeth. So many teeth. I staggered back, gripping the motel clerk's arm in a death grip. I felt his muscles go rigid beneath my fingers. His breath hitched. He saw it too. And then. It ran at us. I didn't think. Didn't move on my own. My body acted before my brain could catch up. I grabbed the clerk and yanked him with me as I ran. We sprinted across the parking lot, shoes slamming against pavement, breath ragged, heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to break free. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I could hear it. The way its limbs moved wrong, like bones popping in and out of place. It wasn't running. It was closing the space between us in ways I didn't understand. A shortcut. A skipped frame in reality. It was bending the rules of this world to reach me. The clerk was shouting something, but I couldn't make out the words. We reached the main road. Streetlights flickered. The whole world felt like it was glitching, struggling to process this thing's existence. And then. The air changed. Something shifted. And just like that. It was gone. The weight of its presence, the wrongness in the air. It just vanished. Like it had never been there. The motel clerk collapsed onto the pavement, gasping for breath. What the fuck was that? I couldn't answer. I just stood there, shaking, the cold night air biting at my skin. The road was empty. The motel stood behind us, silent. The lights in my room were back on. Door closed. Like nothing had happened. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat, my hands trembling so hard I could barely keep them at my sides. The clerk looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. He had seen it. It wasn't just me anymore. That should have made me feel less insane. But it only made it worse. Because now I knew. This wasn't in my head. It was real. And it was still out there. I didn't go back to my room. I didn't even go back for my stuff. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove. I drove for hours. Didn't stop until the sun had fully risen and I was in a different state, surrounded by people, surrounded by life. I booked a new hotel. Paid in cash. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands pressed to my face, heartbeat refusing to slow. And I waited. Waited for the whisper. The knock. The sound of a doorknob turning in the dead of night. But it never came. Not that night. Not the next. Not the week after. And for a while, I let myself believe it was over. It's been 6 months. I moved. Different state, different job. I haven't talked about it. Haven't told anyone. I don't know where it went. I don't know what it was. I just know that sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I think I hear something. Something faint. Something moving. I tell myself it's nothing. That I'm safe. That I got away. But then, last night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to shake the feeling of something watching me, I heard it. Right outside my bedroom door. The doorknob. Turning. And this time, it didn't stop.